military standoff that cannot be ignored. The biggest in a long time. A standoff with violent brawls, military mobilization and war rhetoric. But not a single bullet fired. As India sits riveted over what happens next in the Ladakh standoff, a bit of history could be useful. Let's take you back to the last time bullets were fired between India and China. A battle where few know that India actually gave China a humiliating bloody nose. This is September 1967 in Nathu, Sikkim. 5 years before, as you well know, India was humiliated in the 1962 war with China. A war that has burned itself into India's psyche on how we regard that country. But just 5 years later, in 1967, India was galvanized against a treacherous enemy and ready to fight back. The standoff began as the Indian Army began construction of an iron picket fence from Nathu to Sebula along the perceived border. An ugly scuffle began as China objected to the laying of the fence, with a PLA commissar even being roughed up. Days later, the Chinese rained machine gun fire on Indian positions there, catching Jawans of the 70 Field Company and 18 Rajput Regiment in the open. For days, fighting continued, with India successfully defending its positions. Dead bodies were exchanged on the 15th of September 1967, at which time Sam Manekshaw, then the Eastern Army commander, was present at Nathu. Pushed back, a humiliated Chinese army tried again. Hitting back 20 days later in October 1967 at Chola, another pass on the Sikkim-Tibet border a few kilometers north of Nathu. Despite casualties on the Indian side, once again the Chinese were surprised by a highly energized Indian army that aggressively pushed the Chinese back. More than 80 Indian soldiers were killed, while estimates say between 300 to 400 Chinese troops were killed in the twin battles. Veterans of the time believe it is the grit shown in 1967 that is the reason why no bullets have been fired between the two sides ever since. History, they say, has the answers. Bureau Report, India Today.